Coast versus Vulcun, now into picks and bans.
They banned the Riven. Step one. That is step one in Meaning Ghost right there. And the Rengar as well. Zion Spartan has been playing a lot of Rengar. There's a lot of top solo queue players like Westerice and a guy called Only Rengar that only play Rengar and have done really well with him. So he's kind of a feared champion that these guys don't know how to deal with yet. So since they had the freedom to ban here, they just got rid of it.
So every time I think of Rengar, I think of Twitch and the cat and mouse game. And Mashmi plays Twitch, so maybe we'll see that off the pick coming in. Psycho Sid, looks like Jace will be going in, but that should be shifting over to ManCloud.
Yeah, big surprise there. Jace was available. We're going to pick that one. They got it, guys. Good work.
Wow, Zion's loving this Doran start going on Jarvan, but we could still see that switching up. Elise is there, but more than likely see Jarvan on Nintendo.
Yeah, it's actually a very interesting thing because Zion Spartan, or not Zion Spartan, Nintendo X was playing Jungle Elise back in the first split before anyone else had kind of jumped on the train. But at the same time, he's been doing the Doran's played Jarvan, and Psycho Sid's played Elise as his most played champion in the top lane, I think, so far this split. So very unpredictable what they're going to be going with those two.
A lot of top-tier picks left open here, especially the support pick Thresh coming in. Looks like Xmithie will hover on that. Bloodwater seems to be liking that choice for whatever lane composition they're really going to revolve around here. And we can see, like in the last game, Doublelift said they picked a very high-priority target. We could counter on that. Neither team is doing that.
Yeah, and specifically with Thresh as well as Jace, they're almost multiplying their team mobility because one guy gets behind, you throw him the lantern, and then everyone else gets to gate ahead. You very well keep yourself as a cohesive unit here just to try to escape what Coast might be trying to chase him down with.
And I have to give credit to Mashmi. Every time he has gotten to picks and bans, he has always clicked Heimerdinger first. He is a consistent man.
One of these days,
he'll forget.
Something's going to happen.
Or he'll lock it in.
Yeah.
It does go for Draven. 2 quick lock-ins here. Shipper bringing out Orianna as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see that helping the crew. We know Jinte used to play a lot of that. So the team is definitely aware of what can happen there.
Second Orianna game of the day, as well as second Jarvan, second Draven game. They're just picking the same comp they picked against Dignitas, even though their Dignitas game went a little by the wayside. They weren't able to pull it down, but Mashmi has had some very successful games on Draven, and with the protection that Orianna may provide him, will be a very interesting lane when he tries to fight up against the Caitlyn.
Yeah, it's almost like sticking with comfort. We saw TSM kind of go on tilt after their try of a composition, and they went twice with Wheelhouse, the Bash Brothers strategy that they used to use. So Coast is feeling that, you know, even though it didn't get the win, it can still help them, and they feel comfortable with the play no matter what. So it's really about keeping that morale up. As we've said, the Zac getting some play time today.
So we've seen Meteos play a lot of Zac early on, and then it's just banned every game, and he's kind of went away. But he still provides ridiculously long-range initiation for these guys. And I kind of like how Coast decided to go right for the Blitzcrank afterwards, because since they know Vulcun gets to kind of pick where they initiate often, he wants to throw them off by pulling the wrong target in. He's going to have to be careful not to pull the Zac in and just help him out. But it's...
Start off the Let's Bounce.
Yeah. When Coast has Daydreaming, they're usually pretty comfortable.
Zuna on that Rise carry, we can see them locking the we're going to see. So Psycho Sid's going to be on Rise in the top lane and look to put Jace. We may have that.
Yeah, they may have ManCloud on Rise. We know that Vulcun gives teams a lot of trouble because both Psycho Sid and ManCloud play a lot of different champions, and they can swap around kind of however they want. Plus, as far as the lane swaps go, we've seen even the Cloud9 guys say, we just like to surprise teams. And that could be what Vulcan's trying to do here. It makes the rune setups very confusing and hard for, say, Zion Spartan on Elise. He's not able to go full armor or full magic resist against someone because he doesn't know who he's going to be landing
against. And it does look like he may stick with that. We'll have to see as the last few seconds go out. Psycho Sid will be locked in as Jace, so this is going to be ManCloud on Rise. We've seen it before. And ManCloud is just one scary SOB on pretty much any champion, it can be said.
He has been dominating this season. And it's a shame that Vulcun, as amazingly entertaining as the game was, for Vulcun it was a shame that they lost that game against Cloud9 yesterday, because everything has been an upward trend for Vulcun. They had been dominating teams. Every interview when we asked a team, who are you most afraid of, they'd say, probably Vulcun. They just have a really solid style, and they can't like crack the Vulcun egg in a lot of these games. But after that loss, we got to see if their confidence has been shaken as they go into this game.
It's so great what Vulcun brings to the table in Champion Select by being able to play all your champions, which makes it even harder to want to pick one. So we'll see them bringing that into every game here. We'll see what Coast can do against it. Like we said, picking the majority of what they've already used today, and Elise, Jarvan, and that Orianna. So we'll see. Now entering onto the Rift, our 5th match of the day.
Yeah, I wonder if that Psycho Sid start is going to work out for him in the lane, He's put so much into consumables and wards that his combat effectiveness early is going to be a little bit low, and they're almost going to have to get some payoff either in the way they match up the lanes or taking some kind of edge level 1. Maybe they just overwarded because they're worried about the Blitzcrank threat early.
Sticking themselves at the top side. Looks like both teams going to mirror each other just for now. They'll have that ward towards the mid-side bush, which will definitely grab them on the way out. It looks like they're trying to get a lot of vision going in here. Which one of these comes out as the Explorer? It looks like they're all actually fresh wards, so those are going to stay up.
Yeah, 5-man stacks here for both teams, just running around, trying to give themselves a bit of safety against a stray hook that comes in so they'd be able to fight afterwards. And they both had the same idea. Let's go for the red side of the jungle. Interesting that in our last 2 games, both teams went for the red side of the jungle. These teams try to remain as unpredictable as possible at level 1, and it's almost random whether they 5-man run into each other or not a lot of the time.
It looks like they won't use that Blitzcrank to too much of an advantage. Daydream and Mashme could head down to this lane and hook for that tri-bush, but no, they will go back towards their side. Nothing crazy. Hard hats are on for both teams to start off this game, and the matchups will be the swap 2v1 lanes.
The boldest thing I can see is Zuna and Bloodwater at the enemy double golems right now, and they know that Zion Spartan is waiting there, so they recognize that Nintendo X is going for red. They might be going for a kill here with that Doran Blade start on the Nintendude.
I would have said they wait a little bit longer for the damage to come out here, but it's just going to be for harass. They do want the kill, but they're not going to wait for that buff to go off. It's going to be big damage coming in. Rise, Mandatory Cloud still coming up behind Shifter.
Going for
a few good attacks. The Ignite is down, and they find Nintendo X in the jungle.
And Nintendo X just going with that Doran's Blade start every game to give him early game power. Losing the death and his flash right away, plus X-Smithy just adding insult to injury, hopping over the wall and stealing his red. What a fantastic start for Vulcun.
I don't know if they'll have enough time. It's taking good damage. The smite's down, so I don't think they'll get too much pressure onto this. It'll definitely be theirs. We see even right now Nintendo's heading for the bottom, and he's not going to get any help there. So very slow jungling coming from Nintendo unless he forces himself into a lane.
I really want to see how Coast tries to come back from this one, because Vulcun, in some of their wins, have really jumped on teams early. Think of the game against Cloud9 yesterday. 11 kills to 1 before the 10-minute mark in that game. So they're off to the same kind of start here.
And that's almost 1,000 gold lead as well with what is going around the map. The buff's stolen, the camp's stolen. It's a good gold lead for 3 minutes in.
And specifically, Nintendo X can't match what X-Smithy is doing right now in the jungle. Zion Spartan's going to risk dying here unless he pulls off a miraculous play, 1v3.
They are right onto it. Zach has the turret. Elastic Slingshot. The Bloblet's not even to go out. He flashes. It's now in the siege. And they're able to just hold this off. Great play by Spartan.
Yeah, that actually was pretty miraculous. 1v3, doesn't even have to burn his flash, and repels X-Smithy completely from the turret, whereas Psycho Sid wasn't taking that chance. At least does have more utility and resiliency to tower dives, but that's a great bounce back by Coast, Riv.
3.5 minutes in. He didn't even get taken down. Psycho Sid left the lane. His turret just got brutalized by Coast in a matter of minutes.
He didn't bother sticking around, and Jarvan pushes a little bit faster than everyone else because he gives attack speed to his team when he drops his Demacian standard.
Yeah.
And that's the bounce back they wanted. Now I wonder how long Zion Spartan can hold that, or if Coast is just going to continue their onslaught of bottom.
And you can see this, going onto the turret. X-Smithy with that double buff definitely doesn't want to use it. His passive still up right now. And as we look at this mid lane, Shifter playing a different style than last game. Definitely has levels going into his W to burst ManCloud out of lane.
Yeah, it's Psycho Sid. We're always so used to seeing ManCloud in the mid lane on Jace, but they've done the old, no, they haven't done the old switcheroo. I'm the one thinking weird. It's like, why wouldn't Jace be in the mid lane, man? But yeah, ManCloud's actually doing a fantastic job like usual farming out against Shifter, who in last game we saw Link's Orianna win the early lane against Reginald's TF.
Doing what he can to keep that damage up. Looks like he may find a little bit of pressuring help on ManCloud here. That standard is up, but looks like the bottom lane will still get more love here from Coast. They want the second turret in under 6-7 minutes.
They are relentless with this push, but they are against 2 people. They have now traded the turrets back. I don't know how much good can come from Coast in this 3v2 turret push. Let's see how well Vulcun can hold it. I expect they're going to be able to wave clear a bit.
And Coast has reacted to this perfectly. They pull Smithy. The buffs are off of him, so no worry on the transfer there. But I was saying that they've played this perfectly, and Nintendo has to be praising his team right now. For the jungler to go down that early, and you know you're not going to see him in lane, but your team still manages to push down a turret in 3.5 minutes without any of that help. They've made the adjustments necessary.
The imbalance that was created when Nintendo X got killed down in
too. He's good. He's good.
Is he?
Yep.
I
usually have that.
Usually.
I'm going to think about that until about 3 in the morning.
Is he? Then the last tick of midnight. It's
it
always
is.
the last tick. It's like, I feel like it's done ticking. It's surely off of net.
I think it stopped. Oh, it did.
Damn it, I died again. That was a great play there by Shifter because ManCloud was prioritizing farm far more than harass and fighting because he didn't think he was in threat of dying, but he obviously got punished there by Shifter's Orianna.
A little bit of gold for Shifter there because he had the kill. A little bag of chips for him. He gets back that. A little retribution for first blood as it's now 1-1. It's still a bit of a gold lead there, coming up at 600 in favor of Vulcun. And
I want to see if ManCloud can transition from that first blood, even though he died to the lane as Shifter, because look at how early he's finished that Catalyst and Tear of the Goddess already on Rise. He should be a force now, knowing that Shifter's Ignite is down.
Let's see what Shifter plays. ManCloud puts the ward in to be somewhat aggressive here in the mid lane. There is a ward down at Dragon that's somewhat helping him. They'll still be able to creep up, but we'll see how he plays this accordingly. Smithy just on the backside of this duo bot.
And without a turret here, you can tell the only reason Vulcun, Zuna, and Bloodwater would be pushed this far up is if they had X-Smithy giving them support, which is why Don't Mash Me and Daydream are saying, no, we're going to go back and farm this at our turret.
Both ManCloud, Psycho Sid, obviously picking up that tier, but with the Catalyst there, that spells late game. These guys are looking to charge up those stats. And this turret now in the bottom lane to be hit up. Whoa, all the way pressures in. Smithy is on the heels to initiate on. A lot of damage to Mash Me. He's got 150, but goes down by Smithy as he almost blobs out on that one. But they get off the focus on the turret aggro, and they get out clean.
Still a solid kill. They had to burn a lot of flashes, but they may get the turret back for this one, which would be worth even more. If Vulcun can start pulling ahead on turrets, they can start getting a stranglehold on the map. Now they can't pull ahead on turrets.
Bottom turret going down, and it looks like Coast will answer as well. On the top one, waiting for these minions to go down, making sure they get a bit more of experience out of this advantage.
We are on fire with these predictions today. It's like, yeah, they got, no, that's the turret. It's also
going down. It's not going down. Jat, somebody's going to win this game.
I agree, actually. Good prediction.
All
Someone's going to get this dragon, I think, as well, because Vulcun totally grouped in around this while Nintendo X was pushing the top lane. So this is something that can't be immediately traded back.
Be very nice for them. Good damage as well still coming from that mid lane. 4 points into W of that dissonance as Shifter still trying to go for the powerful Orianna in mid. Nintendo's creeping in the lane.
Still a level 5 Nintendo though, so we can't completely lock ManCloud down at the Cataclysm.
Usually ManCloud probably saw that too and he's like, wait a minute, I'm just going to walk back in the lane. Zion Spartan just leveled up there, so it mitigated a bit of the damage he took. Psycho Sid still 7-5 though in that engagement if it happens. That
is a monstrous experience disadvantage right there for Psycho Sid, so he's really got to worry, specifically because we know Elisa's level 9 when she has both the max melee and range Q. I've seen him one-shot multiple Jaces here, especially if he's down 2 levels worth of base health. Psycho Sid's going to have to be so cautious with every brush he approaches.
Slowly gaining that gold lead now, 2,000. There's the shockwave on a rise. Whoa, they put 3 strong in middle. ManCloud definitely goes down, and Smithy looks to bounce right out of it. Whoa, that was actually pretty sweet on the Lancer.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, he was blobbing himself into a lantern and just went for a ride, but that was the 4v2 in the mid lane, punishing ManCloud once again, and Vulcun might try to turn back.
Nintendo gets grabbed. Can he stand it out? Oh, he actually flashes to the standard instead of has the Q up. The shield saves the ignite damage. Oh, but he gets punched right in the back of the head. And Smithy's going to make it out with that one. And it looks like they can discontinue the fight, rather.
Vulcun is countering Coast just as Coast is countering Vulcun, but the slight lead has got to beat a Vulcun here as they try to push down this mid lane with the threat of a blitz pull always present.
The Draven ulti coming from bottom lane. That means that Mashme's been down there by himself. It only shows 13 CS up. And really only a pickaxe in the hands of Zuna, so these guys are piecing together those core items at this point.
There is definitely action before items in this game, where the last match was items before action. I prefer to commentate these games early on because they're much more exciting, Riv, but I want to see how Don't Mash Me and Zuna interact with each other, because I feel like for for the next 5 or 10 minutes, Dome Mashme's going to have complete supremacy over Zuna until Zuna starts getting some strong items to keep Dome Mashme in range.
The coast is working. The lane pushes perfectly here. The top wave's coming in after completely pushing the bottom one. It's prepped for Zuna to take golems and then grab that wave in the top. But he's not going to be with his team, and we're going to see the Zuna maybe for these fights. We'll have to see how they react with that dragon. Everybody's kind of just waltzing around mid.
Yeah. And I do want to go back to the shifter putting more points in his dissonance W on Orianna as opposed to Q, because I know you play a lot of Orianna yourself, but with the Q, you gain potentially more control of the lane with harass because you move it back and forth. But the W gives you a little bit more mobility, just less frequent spamming. It's almost a more defensive move because since you can't move your ball as often, you're more likely to have it sitting on top of your head and just out farming, as Shifter's trying to do.
Oh, what a grab coming in. Zuna didn't even see it coming. Takes a few turret shots as well. Daydreaming, trying to make some plays, and if that's happening now, they got to be careful later.
Zuna did get out of there, though, just with a Thresh Lantern, whereas it potentially burned the Orianna ult and the Daydreaming pull, but now Coast got overconfident.
Oh,
wow.
Daydreaming a little too close.
Caught him thinking about something else right there. Maybe it was
Daydreaming.
Maybe.
Absolutely.
Not sure.
11 minutes and a half jumping into this game. Our 5th of the day. Man Cloud being a beast with 85 kills, the most in the LCS this NA split, I should say. 17,000 gold as well to the 15,000. So that 2K gold lead is staying strong here for Vulcun. And we said Vulcun can win games with a 2K gold lead. I'd say 80% of the time. They always have that.
They take care of business. Unless they're against Cloud9, in which case they lose multiple team fights and argue for very long amounts of time after the game. And this is why I'm so interested about this Vulcun game coming in, because they're the last team you would have expected to blow a lead the size they had against Cloud9.
Yep.
Whereas Cloud9 is, the most likely team to be able to make a comeback because we've seen. But they seem to have responded quite well. Vulcun is playing decisively right now. They're making very strong actions. Mandatory Cloud was a little shaken with his early deaths on Rise, something we don't see that often, but he's still getting his farm, and he definitely is working up his items very quickly.
We've said it before, he's one of those champions you can really put a beating on, and he will still find a way to come back to be an impact for his team in the late game. And it's not just based on the champion he's playing, it's how he plays that champion. It's not just, oh, I have a Rumble Equalizer, I can use it later. He really puts it to great effect. It's like Daydreaming, throwing on that overdrive, but he just wants cupcakes really bad.
And Daydreaming's landed a lot of pulls that actually haven't granted them too many advantages. In fact, the last pull they got on Zuna, since it didn't get a kill, only burned Shifter's Orianna ult and then left Coast open to more counterattack. That hook missing gives Vulcun another chance to go back at him. Can Bloodwater land when he does?
Oh, you talked about it before. Having that hookup still creates aggression, but when you put it down, they know they can go. Daydreaming with 1 hit left gets taken down by Xmithy, and he is picking up some good kills for himself this game at 3-0-1. It's not done yet, though. Psycho Sid getting good pressure onto him. Command Shockwave just ripping through the Hexdrinker, as well as Draven's attacks. Mashme picks himself up a kill.
Goes
a
all
double
in.
kill. The first time he's been present in the fight after that bottom lane free farm.
And this was a fight without Zuna. Zuna was in the bottom lane farming this entire time. So even though Vulcun started with the kill, that only made it a 4v4. But now Zuna is here, and they continue. No, they don't.
This is the thing about Vulcun. They'll still throw everything they have at you to stop you from engaging. And Zuna, he's throwing himself right into the fight right now. He's got to be careful.
Got to be real careful. He's got nightmares about that Tristana game where he didn't have midline or frontline protection, so he was constantly threatened by everyone on Cloud9. This game, he's got a little bit more beef in the midline to help protect him, and they decide to die.
Mashme taking so much damage, so the hole goes by, but it doesn't take him out. It's going to be Daydreaming. A silence under the turret really thwarts what they wanted to get out of that, and they almost lose Xmithy and Bloodwater.
Wow, that was some very close turret tanking where those guys were just able to escape out of this one. Game's still very close. Coast is actually mounting a bit of a comeback because even though it's been a 2,000 gold lead for a fair bit, the later into a game a 2,000 gold lead goes, the better it is for the team that's down, because it's really more about the percentage you are down in gold than the actual number.
That Draven has finished a Bloodthirster, starting to build that up. We have the critical cloak available for purchase on Zuna, but it looks like he's going to take that all the way to the Infinity Edge for himself. Waiting to farm up that mid lane again as it resets with Link. Mashme has been farming so much this game, and there's not a ton of farm in the game, but he does have the most right now.
And especially with that double kill, it's going to just accelerate him right past everybody else even more so. probably going for that Bloodthirster Last Whisper, which is the Draven build we've seen everyone else doing. And I think Coast wants more team fights, surprisingly. Even though they don't have the Jace Gate control, they still have the Daydream and hooks. And if they can get Don't Mash Me into a fight right now, and they get any kind of trading against Zuna, since it's a non-completed Infinity Edge versus a completed Bloodthirster and upgraded boots, Don't Mash Me will have such an edge in that 500 gold difference will mean almost nothing. It'll be an advantage for Coast.
A lot of summoner spells down here. A pretty good dive team from Vulcun, and Coast knows it. Sitting in the back of their minds, you see how far they're off of this turret. So that power of Vulcun means they have the upper hand at objectives.
And Zion Spartan was in the base as well, just picking up that Tank Elise item set right now. A lot of health. Don't Mash Me getting caught a little bit. This could create the fight.
They lock it down, the elastic slingshot on a Mash Me. Too bad he can't grab Mash Me over the wall. Daydream and high fives his teammate as he goes down. Shifter getting caught up here in the box. Super slowed. A great shock blast of AoE damage. Daydream and taking some shots. You can see the damage Vulcun has right now. It's not completed, which is the scariest part.
And even though Coast wanted the fight, they didn't want that kind of a fight.
Yeah.
They needed Don't Mash Me to come in after everyone else had been initiated on and then start cleaning up. So very good catch there by Vulcun, catching Don't Mash Me in transit. Still though, as you mentioned, only getting that 1 kill and having to peel back and farm as Psycho Sid goes and tries to catch up in levels.
Still pounding out the CS. 80 to 78 in that lane matchup. So those two coming into the fight, but they have different purposes. Elise is going to be locking up, helping the fights continue, where Jace is going to be in that back line trying to crush down and zero out the health bars. 6-4 at 17 minutes in. 2K gold lead. I don't think it ever changes when Vulcun has a lead against somebody. It's always 2K.
No matter what happens, they're just like, yeah, I think we'll find a way to hold this gold lead. And they want to hold this turret. He gets pulled out of his jump.
They also want to hold a blob. They grab Zach. He gets back on the lantern. I actually heard it from him too. He had his hands up in the air. Hopefully you can get the picture at the end of the ride.
Yeah, it costs extra money though, and he needs to save that money for wards, unfortunately.
He absolutely needs to save it right now. They are up, but you can't be spending on needless things.
Nope. Except for that. Oh, I was waiting for the needlessly large rod, but it's not in anyone's inventory. Anyway, Zuna's does get the Infinity Edge. He's slightly more on pace with Don't Mash Me because Don't Mash Me doesn't have anything more, and the hooks keep flying in mid lane.
Oh, there's the stand aside. Bloodwater using just about everything to get out. He's taking the front end burst. The Q execution from Zion Spartan to pick up the kill.
So these are very good signs from Coast. This is an incredibly competitive game these guys are mounting against each other. I'm looking at just the mid lane matchup. ManCloud is getting closer and closer to that tier, 420 out of 750. Likewise, Psycho Sid is 600 out of 750 on his Manamune stacks. Since Psycho Sid has been a non-factor in this game on Jace for so long, he had a very difficult laning phase. He also had to itemize Hex Drinker because he was afraid of Zion Spartan's 100-0 burst combo. Yep. If he can get that Muramana, he will turn into a factor on Jace, which is something Vulcun hasn't had for the majority of this game.
Vulcun does not have, or not Vulcun, rather Coast, as you're saying, once he gets that Muramana is going to be quite big. And the last Whisper is not going to be necessary yet either, because with the offensive, or you would even say defensive, that Coast has been going through, they don't have their armor yet, so all that damage is going to stick. They're going to bring to the table. See, in the mid lane push, they are not doing much with it. Dragon's down, they're objective free, so they're just feeling out the map until the next fight.
There have been so many things happening mid lane, and they're just continually running back there over and over again. They've put many wards down in mid lane. Basically, these side lane pushes we're seeing are just to get the lane shoving back and forth. Then they meet in mid lane and have skill shot wars with each other. Can Daydream and hook, or can Bloodwater hook?
It's going to be the hook challenge. It's going to be one on the other. Daydreamin is able to get out. He blows the flash. His Ignite is still coming up from a previous engagement, so he can still be a threat coming into this fight.
And again, look at this. There's 4, is that 5? I can't see the rest of them. 5 members of Vulcun all coming up the mid lane as Zion Spartan's off putting a side lane. So once again, can Daydream and hook someone into a turret, or can Vulcun get someone with a Thresh Lantern? Always
watching Daydreamin's positioning. He runs around in his wave of minions and then dips out to get a quick grab. Watch it for the next time. Looking at these inventories, we do see that Rise Spirit Visage build coming out once again for ManCloud.
Very solid build against the double AP composition of Coast. Back in the day, Rise would always go Frozen Heart for the cooldown reduction, but Spirit Visage gives 20 CDR, and it's smarter to complete that before you finish your Seraph's Embrace, because Rise's damage output is very reliant on the cooldown reduction and just machine gunning the Qs again and again, so he's starting to hit his damage thresholds as well.
Coast has to be careful here. They almost put himself in between the jungle and ManCloud and the rest of everybody in mid. They pull back a little bit. That ward was just behind Dragon. We see that comes up in 40 seconds. ManCloud trying to push the bottom wave, so that's not a pressure of anything. And we may see them going for this Dragon.
Knowing that it's up and knowing how close this game is makes me think they're going to be going for it. Specifically as well, since we have both teams with all 3 outer turrets down. The battlefield is very large, and the place they're going to fight is probably in the center or near the center with that Dragon. So if this Dragon fight happens, we need to really pay attention to where Shifter's Orianna ult lands. That's going to be the key thing in this fight, assuming no one gets caught by a hook.
Nintendo hits up there. Zuna's going to be able to get a few shots in. The elastic slingshot is used. That's a lot of engagement down, though. No, ManCloud is there to follow up. He throws down on Nintendo. Zuna picks up that kill actually with a headshot. No, there's the headshot from the back line. It bursts him down so Daydreaming can be taken out. Synergizing the attacks perfectly. Not that they meant to. But wait a minute. Things turning around now. Here comes Mash Me. The last Whisper is not finished, but he does have the extra damage from the pickaxe right now. Coming back in Smithy, the second slingshot into the fight, and this one looks to be a little bit better. Shifter with the shield on, but he gets knocked down as he slams down the hammer. Double kill for Psycho Sid in an all-around very chaotic fight.
And we talked about Psycho Sid's Muramana becoming a factor in this game. He got it right before that fight, and that is such an improved split for Psycho Sid as well. His KDA is double what it was last split. Great performance, and even though that fight didn't start as crisply as possible, that's the nature of this game for these guys, and Vulcun adapted for the win.
And you can see what objectives mean. It wasn't the fight for Baron. It was the fact that Baron was coming up, and Vulcun started to move the... Yes, thank you, Dragon. Don't say the B word. And it was the fact that Vulcun was moving the chess pieces to get themselves into position to make it happen before Dragon came up.
And they caught Nintendo X trying to get their chess pieces in place as well. That's why they got the Thresh Lantern at the very start of it. Specifically, the in and out play of Xsmithy in that fight, landing 2 very crucial elastic slingshots on a priority targets at the right time, swung that fight.
Looking at the items now, you said the Muramana was finished. We do have that last Whisper coming out on a Mash Me, and we saw it was about 3 axes that crushed down Zuna in that fight, made him change his mind about where he actually was. We'll see if they can do it again. No stack up on that staff yet coming in for Rise. He's still looking at 568 out of 750. That tier, we said, the Muramana is finished. We'll have to see where they decide to go. Wards right now are pretty much on Coast side to stop the advancement of Vulcun. They're looking to get aggressed on here.
And even though that was a big team fight win and a Dragon take for Vulcun, there's still no turret progression being made. So it's the presence of Vulcun that's pushing Coast back a little bit now, not anything that's changed about the map. They still have the same ward placements. Vulcun still hasn't been able to invade Coast jungle yet and get wards in those positions, and they don't want to necessarily approach the Baron yet because they're very scared of either Orianna ults or Blitzcrank grabs in and around the Baron pit.
I'm interested to see when Coast can start to synergize with their builds. The Ryla's coming out for Elise, going to help that command dissonance, helps, like we said, leveling that W for the speed up, the engage, the overdrive from Daydreaming to initiate the fights. It's a little like the Iceborne Gauntlet we saw last time. These guys are synergizing to keep those fights going. Yeah,
the chase is pretty strong for both teams. It's not quite as mismatched as it was in that COG TSM game. So if either team wins these fights, they can chase down pretty well. I don't think they can chase down for clean aces in close fights, but these fights have been very all-in from both teams, so they're okay just brawling with each other.
Got to have those items when you're running up against the shock or the acceleration gate disengage. Got to make sure you can catch up. Bottom turret getting some aggression here, but it looks like it's going to be all 5 members of both teams. The dodge on the hook, and they, like we said before, that kind of lets everything calm down, and now they're just going to be able to pressure.
And that was a much larger investment than a regular everyday hook. That was a flash hook. He was really trying to turn something there, and that just made them run away. Even though the creeps weren't providing them any help with the turret, Psycho Sid says, yeah, I'll take it.
Moving over, power and numbers for these guys. Zuna has already moved before that, knowing they were safe. He says, I'll start pushing mid ahead of time. We'll have that aggression. This is exactly where they caught Mash Me last time. But as Coast comes out of their base, they'll be safe for this push.
Now let's see, just bouncing all over the place. He knew Coast wasn't there. He was just, it's like one of those Lee Sin cues. If you land it, you always want to go for the ride, just for fun. Just to see what happens.
You get fouled, you still take the shot.
Yeah, he charged up a slingshot. Might as well.
We'll see what builds both teams are considering here. Locket of the Iron Solari coming out on Nintendo with rather heavy AP. You have the Zac, you have the ManCloud, so it's not too bad. Not interesting that they haven't built the Bulwark, but that's coming out definitely on the side of Vulcun.
And we can't forget the very start of this game where Nintendo X got destroyed by dying at level 1 and getting his red buff stolen. So it's still showing that he fell behind early. 0-3-5 is not the best scoreline. His team in general was able to recover, but individually, you don't necessarily come back super strong from a thing like that.
Oh, there it is. There's
man.
the speed up. We're talking about dissonance onto overdrive. Is he going to be able to go? Oh, the net, really? It's going to stop everything. It looked so good for a second. Oh, he had the angle, but he did not choose to grab.
Also, X-Smithy stood in front of Zuna, daring the pull.
Boom, back inside. He says, this is how you do it. X-Smithy into the fight. It's going to be Bloodwater flashing in as well to throw it on the box. The flay as well. Coast is trying to figure out where to position to start the fight right now. They are not even letting them see how they engage. Shifter out of the fight now. X-Smithy to go in, the blobs to come out on this one, and his team to save him as he recuperates.
Still a 2-for-0, super clean initiation by Vulcun, and they're going to look to take a lot after that one because Jace plus Kate push turrets real fast.
This is going down real good. They're not even going to switch out. Going to keep going for this next turret. Possibly they have the siege minion. Their next minion wave right behind them, so they may try to get a few shots here. Well, home guards.
This is a very interesting Baron play because there's multiple wards that Coast has that we'll see at least Caitlyn and Jace walking towards it here. This is creating some panic pings by Coast. And X-Smithy and ManCloud, even though they're healing a lot, they're taking a lot of damage. I wonder if Coast can make it here in time. The cavalry's arrived, though.
This one out. They are going to be able to get it, and they need to haul back to base right now. They want no engagement from this. Zion Spartan is looking to clean up. He's looking to get a proc on that Rylez or a Cocoon, and it does not look like he will be in range.
What awesome calls Vulcan's had here, though, Riv. Just after knowing the hooks have been down, the body blocking that X-Smithy did on Daydreamin's hooks before that last fight, followed up by the initiation, and then afterwards, to know to go for the Baron and know that they'd be able to take it. I know we always say Bloodwater's the one that makes the calls for Vulcan, but it takes more than that to have a team with that type of cohesion. And you don't call for X-Smithy to stand in front of a Blitzcrank hook and block Zuna. That is individual skill there by X-Smithy. He's really stepping up here.
Everybody playing with each other in mind. You have to be able to trust your teammates, and you have to just be able to go on that whim. We've seen Vulcan activating off of those Blitzcrank grabs, or misses, as you were saying. Coast now picking up double blues around the map. They're going to deny that away from Vulcan, but they did grab that, or not Baron, rather. They did have to walk away from that Baron that was grabbed.
And now Vulcan's going to just go loop around, take the Dragon as well. They're hitting that sweet spot in items as well. You see the Infinity Edge Phantom Dancer on Caitlyn. The Black Cleaver was finished for Psycho Sid as well, so he should be shredding to aid Zuna in his quest to kill more than one person in this game. He's the assist Caitlyn so far, unfortunately for him. But things are looking real good for Vulcan.
It's like they want all their eggs in one basket with this middle lane push. They have... Oh,
that was weird.
Yeah, a little weird.
Yep.
Usually you use the Caitlyn ult to kind of say, hey, here's some damage, because it comes up quite quick, but...
Yeah, oftentimes it's to poke down a turret when you're in an extended siege.
Yeah.
Not just like, I see you there. I'm going to make you use that 15-second cooldown. Oh, you did it. Good work.
I was just going to say as well that Vulcan needs to push these lanes. They do have the bottom pass river, but that top one had quite a wave in it. Could have been something that Coast would have worked with after they got a win in the fight. But right now, with them on the back heels, they got to use this Baron to their advantage, and they are going to start pushing that final lane.
And they're making Daydreamin's life really hard here because X-Smithy is body blocking all the potential hook paths for Daydreamin. And X-Smithy wants to go in anyway. You're just helping him do more damage easier if you pull him in for himself. So
he gets his escape if you pull him in.
Very, very good, smart push here by Vulcan. And I love that late pick Zach here, just as well as the game X-Smithy's been having around it.
And you were saying earlier, we were talking about Meteos a little bit. He played it in the 5-0, all 5 games that came out of that first week of the LCS. Going 5-0, having the highest KDA. Coming back a little bit now, it's just, he kind of fits into every comp if you need an initiator.
Yeah, if you need the initiator. He's not a good peeler, that's for sure. You're telling yourself how you're going to play if you're pulling Zach into your team. And that's the way Vulcan's been playing this. They haven't needed to disengage. They're going back in more often than not, and it's working out for them.
Looking around, the pink wards are coming out, making sure they have vision of everything, which also, like you said, giving trouble to Daydreamin in many ways. He doesn't have spots to stand and hook. They can deny everything if they do think they're going to get hooked here. One item, as we actually look down into the inventory of Shifter, who's seemingly had a hard game, the Athenes, and looking to finish the Rabadons at 30 minutes.
Just not where you want to be necessarily on that farm, and he had the early 1v1 kill on ManCloud, but since then ManCloud's just outpacing him with his Rise farm. And then ManCloud's turned himself into a split-pushing Rise. He can duel very well, but he's the slowest turret pusher in the game, so we'll see how Vulcun deals with that one.
Well, this is where that engagement does come in. We talked a little bit earlier, oh my lord, about having Orianna in a turret with her ulti. It makes it harder for engages, but if your Orianna's not there, it becomes a little easier.
And ManCloud is just getting aid now from Zac.
Zion Spartan in the top lane. ManCloud going for the 1v1, throws on the Seraph. He flashes the rocket grab face to face at point blank range, and it looks like they're going to be able to get out of this with great harass.
But the damage has been done. Vulcun might look to push more than this. Now the damage wasn't done.
Nope.
I think they made it the way safe.
They were thinking about the damage being done.
Oh, look out!
Missed the shockwave as well. Got some minions, though, for the cause. Volatile Spider coming out. Look at the heal coming back. Took the Volatile Spider and the Q coming out. Bloodwater goes down instantly. They almost trade back. Mashme grabs the ult back into his hands. He's going to be forced back to the base. And they thwart somewhat of the push. But Vulcun says, we don't need that. We can keep doing this.
And Coast is putting up one heck of a fight here, trying to keep them off. Still got the one kill and have yet to receive a casualty.
It's one after the other. ManCloud's like, all right, I'm out. Smithy's in. All right, back and forth. ManCloud's in. These guys just soloed Spartan back and forth after he came back from a kill. It's like the batting order went back around.
And 10,000 gold lead here for Vulcun. They had a 10,000 gold lead in their last game against Cloud9, and then they stopped being able to win team fights. They cannot let this happen again. I feel like Vulcan's chances in this one are much greater because their team fighting is stronger in this one, and they have the willingness and ability to initiate onto the targets they want. That was still not the best fight for them, though.
They need these pulls from Daydreaming. They are being stopped too much, like you said, by Smithy. Vulcun is really considering what they're playing against with these engagements. And without those core items, if the engagements don't go perfect, they're going to go awry.
At least the death cap has been completed for Shifter.
Did come out.
You can see Don't Mash Me is full damage. We definitely saw him being full damage when he responded to that death sentence Bloodwater threw down on, basically just two-shotting him and then flashing back out. But he just about died in that instant, so he's got to be so careful and planned about where he goes.
So those home guards for Shifter actually came out quite early. He was the first one to get it on his team, which will hinder the fact that he got to that second core item. We now see them coming out on Elise and the Alacrity boots for that attack speed onto Mashme. He is putting out so much damage, but he can't find an entry into these fights.
Draven does typically struggle against strong like tank lines or even mid lines that he can't position around. He's 550 range, 80 carry, and if you don't have a huge wall of protection in front of him, he can't necessarily shine. So Mashme really has to play these situations carefully. Can't get hit by Thresh Lanterns, can't get even ran at by ManCloud, and he even has trouble dealing with Psycho Sid. So it's very, you have to sneak into a fight almost on Draven.
And somehow, Coast has gotten themselves out here. We'll see, these wards are actually newly placed out in the jungle, so they are making sure if they win a fight, they can continue the chase, they can continue any advantage they might grab, which right now is trickling, if anything, towards them. They are holding, and you can see how hard it is to dive this Coast team right now, because Vulcun has kind of slowed everything down.
And the previous win will help Coast in this next defense based on the wards they put in the jungle. They get to see where Vulcun attacks from and where they would even retreat to, so it just increases the threat that Coast can put out from within their own base.
Still no bulwark even coming out for Coast. You can see how hard up for money they are right now. Usually Daydreaming is the one to be grabbing a Morello Namicon by now, adding damage to the team. He is one to make an impact as a support player, not just with grabs, with damage.
And he doesn't even have his boots of mobility on Blitzcrank this game. That is a staple for him on that champion, so he has definitely been held down a lot in this game and has not had the most successful of hooks.
See that gold lead still very much so in favor with 6-3 in turrets. Those last few turrets, 11 on the map, 5 stand inside the base of Coast. There's the initiation. Orianna to the left side, and they're just using the positioning of Coast to get inside.
And Coast is so low right now, fighting this may be suicide. The extended siege of Jace got them those turrets and the smarts of Vulcun to not overdive like they had done in the previous push.
And Jace continuously going down to this bottom lane as well as ManCloud a few times.
Oh,
they now can press off of this, the second flash hook that's down. But those are engagements that have to be tried.
And they have to work if Coast wants to win this game, because now they're down the flash hook. Daydreaming got taken at half health, and he's not a contributor to that next fight. It's essentially having 4 people on the map for Coast now.
Zion Spartan on the left side. It's going to be ManCloud next Smithy. There's the Seraph's Embrace. He will definitely be able to get through the damage on that one as they waltz right outside the turret range. Shifter trying to throw down a good dissonance in the left side of the map, as well as the right side of the map is just taking damage from Vulcun.
Just an around-the-map attack by Vulcun right now, not giving Coast an inch, and Coast goes in!
Whoa, exploding down Daydream, and he's in the death chamber. 40 seconds on the clock here for movement for Vulcun to be safe. Free, but they still have their hard hats on. There are members that can make an impact from Coast.
And I assure you, ManCloud is pushing that inhibitor as fast as he possibly can. Xmithy comes over, and the fact that they got 2 inhibitors off this makes everything worth it. Coast is trying to get something back, though.
Very nice kill there. It was not a big bounty shutdown, though, unless it just came off the assist that he accrued. That's only a 2, 1, and 8. So with these kills that Coast is grabbing, it's really just allowing them time to breathe. It's not giving them anything huge.
And it's temporary breaths of like toxic gas, because as they were trying to get themselves back into it, they lost their inhibitors. That's their lifeline. They have to make it to the surface in the next 30 seconds or they're done, and they're losing a Baron.
So I said there were 5 turrets left. Since there are 11 in that engagement, Vulcun found a way to take down 3 all across that outside horn of the map. So going all the way around, they head back to Baron. They pick that up for the second one of the game, and an even bigger gold lead that will help them walk through the front door of the base of Coast.
And to put into context how much Vulcan's taking control of this game, it was 3 turrets to 3 at one point.
For a while.
And then from the moment that Vulcun won the fight in Coast's blue buff area and then started just slowly 2-manning Barons, they really just turned it on and accumulated this huge advantage.
Finally getting the Ruby Sightstone in, the Boots of Mobility onto Daydream, and as he's completing his boots now at 35 minutes in. You can see the Shirelias coming in from the support of Bloodwater and how much these guys have just surmounted an advantage in this matchup with constant pressure. After you said it was 3-3 forever, they found the way in.
A lot of it has to do with the way they play. We know that Vulcun knows how to close out games. They are decisive in their calls. And even though Coast has worked a lot on their teamwork lately, we can definitely see Vulcun could be on another level. Keep in mind that game against Cloud9, no one had started beating Cloud9 like that all year. Vulcun looked commanding in that game, and they're looking commanding here, even if the start was a little shaky, which you can't really blame them after having such a devastating defeat yesterday.
Not even being shook by that 3-some-odd minute turret in the bottom lane, then pressure onto the second-tier turret in the bottom, which took damage in that initial engagement, but hasn't been seen by Coast again. So it was instant adaptation by Vulcun in this game to really switch things around and dictate where the pressure was going. They did a lot without fighting. This is a pretty low-kill game.
A lot of Vulcan's wins are tactical, which is why they sneak up on so many people, and just now we're realizing that they're a top team here in North America. And they're slowly trying to win this game as well, knowing they have super minions coming in, and they need to find a fight here to close it out.
A bit of the poke they can use to their advantage. ManCloud knows he did this against Zion Spartan by himself, but in front of a full team of 5, he feels like he can initiate. That's not even like a Malphite out. He walked up to Coast on this one. Mask Me Now in the eyes of Vulcun and the rest of the crew. They are going to be able to take him out in a 3-for-0.
Great fight there by Vulcun. They had the advantages. They knew they could just walk into Coast, and Coast could not give up ground, so this is how it ends.
Not even needing Xmithy on Zach to Elastic slingshot in. Vulcun, a sigh of relief. A very great game, and the Nexus in their favor at 38 minutes.
Well played.